Hey guys, Pete Ramsey here, HVAC Greatness. Welcome to another podcast. You know, when I tell you I'm going to bring it, I bring it. I've got a guest speaker today that is going to blow your socks off. Now, I know you as business owners are struggling with your own things, but if you have salespeople in place, if you really want to see some performance, you'll want to stick around for this one. Come on in and sit down.
Welcome to HVAC Greatness, your weekly source for HVAC business excellence. By subscribing and tuning in here, you'll get insider access to proven strategies, tips, and insights for the HVAC business owner who's tired of the stress and frustrations and struggles that are common to HVAC. Let's redesign your new, highly organized, and hugely profitable HVAC business where being an owner is fun again.
So welcome back. I've got a special guest speaker for you. Now, you're going to want to take notes and you're going to want to listen to this over and over again not to miss a single piece. Now, listen to me. I brought in a guest. This is somebody I met, 15 years ago. He was the feature speaker at a week-long seminar that I attended some 15 years ago. And he stuck with me and he continues to just blow the sales industry away, but he's not limited there. We're going to get into a whole host of different things like mindset and everything else. So if you've got comfort advisors that need help, if you've got service technicians that need help, or if you just need help as a business owner to take it to the next level, you're going to want to stick in. So our guest speaker is a published author. I get this all the time. Pete, what books do you recommend? You need to look at Subtle Words That Sell by Mr. Paul Ross. He is a trainer. He is a master hypnotist. He is a master practitioner at NLP. And for those of you who don't know what NLP is, we're going to talk about that in detail here, and you're just going to be amazed. He's been featured in the BBC. He's been featured in CNN. He's been featured in NBC, the Huffington Post, Uproxx, Rolling Star Magazine, and now HVAC Greatness. So imagine that.
I'm peaking now.
But all kidding aside, Paul, you had a huge influence in my sales program called HVAC Sales Greatness. Great to have you on. I really appreciate you jumping in here.
That's fantastic. It's wonderful for the circle to come around, and someone who I helped, I think it was 1997, where you were a student of mine. I believe it was 97 or somewhere around there. It was really late 90s.
I don't think it was that early. It was in the early 2000s, though.
Okay, that could be. Yeah. That could be. Still 20 years ago.
I know.
Well, welcome back. Welcome back into my circle of learning and influence and persuasion and education. I love doing this. I should say before we begin this exploration together, this journey into the world of subconscious influence, I'm not sure all the ways that you, the audience, watching and listening, might stop and find yourself thinking, wow, I want to continue to learn more with Paul. But as that's taking place today, I just feel honored to know that we're sharing this journey together.
Awesome, my brother. Now, listen, we know that you are from outside of the industry, and we know that you're an expert on human mind, human nature, and everything that entails. And a lot of times we get hung in our industry on working with experts within our industry alone, but the good stuff comes from outside. So, Paul, you do a lot of stuff. And I know that you've got your book that's been published not too long ago, but what is your focus today? Where's your business at right now?
Sure. So right now I have two businesses. The first business, of course, is I am a dating coach for clueless guys. So I'm still doing that since I've been doing it since 1988. I'm still at it because someone has to do it. And there are a lot of clueless men out there. But primarily what I'm doing is taking everything I've learned about how language structures consciousness and shapes decisions and drives behavior, everything I've learned as a hypnotist. And I'm doing two things. I'm taking anyone who's in business, whether they have a service-based business, whether they're online, whether they're selling face-to-face, and I'm training them on how to use the power of subconscious language to open up the minds of the people to who I want to sell. Let me give you some basic rules of my system because it's pretty radically different. The first rule is whatever you can get your prospect to imagine for themselves will be perceived by them as being their own thought. Therefore, they will not resist it. Does that make sense?
The human mind does not resist a thought it perceives to be its own. I remember you taught me that a long time ago.
Correct. And number two, here, this one should actually be number one. So the number one understanding actually to get is you're never selling your product or service. You're not selling HVAC. You are selling decisions, and good feelings about decisions. In fact, you can look at yourself as a decision service technician, because nowadays people have trouble making good decisions. They don't have the attention span. They certainly don't have the focus that they used to, and they don't trust themselves. A lot of traditional sales training says, well, you have to get people to trust you, and that's true, but that's not enough. Nowadays, you have to get them to be able to focus, because they don't have the focus they used to have. So if they're not focused, even if they're highly interested in what you have to offer, even if they're ready, if they're not focused, then they won't be able to pay attention. You've got to keep them focused. You've got to get them in states where they go beyond rapport. Rapport is really good, but what if in a matter of 2 or 3 minutes, you could put them into a state where they subconsciously, not consciously, but subconsciously view you as a leader who they have to follow. So the next rule is don't pay attention at first. Don't pay attention to your marketing plan or the rest of it. In the beginning, think to yourself, what state of mind do I want my prospect to be in? May I unpack that for you?
Absolutely. Reverse engineer that.
All right. I'm going to reverse engineer it and give you a metaphor, because, as a master teacher, I teach a metaphor. So let's say we want to conduct a current of electricity. I have a sheet of gold foil and a sheet of cardboard. Which one is going to conduct that electricity better?
The gold, baby.
The gold, baby. We always want to go for the gold. So think of your marketing message, whatever that is, your sales message, your pitch, your setup, as being the electricity. But think of the state of mind of your client as being that gold foil. You could have them in the cardboard metaphor, to use a metaphor, to push the metaphor. You could have them in that cardboard state of being unfocused, of being skeptical, of not trusting themselves, or you could have them in that state of being focused, of wanting to believe you, getting them to a childlike state where they're willing to be led, where they trust themselves to make a good decision through unconscious suggestion, through subtle suggestion. Words are powerful. So the first thing, really, your orientation ought to be, what state of mind do I want my client to be in? What states do I want them to be in? This is something that I think is just not talked about. Yeah, go ahead. You had
I agree. And one of the things that I've heard you say before, and a lot of our listeners in the business, in my industry, they may okay, is this guy a hypnotist? Is he hypnotizing these customers into doing something they really don't want to? How would you reply to that, Paul?
Well, my definition of hypnosis is not about putting people down into trance and making them do something they don't want to do. So erase that. I don't know all the ways, as you allow that easily and naturally to be erased from your mind, that you can now feel yourself thinking, wow, wait a minute. I'm curious to hear, what is Paul's answer to this very important question for me? Well, the answer to the question for me, hypnosis is not about narrowing choices or getting your prospect to accept your ideas. It's about expanding their mind to include your ideas. It's not about narrowing down their mind so all they see is your ideas. It's not about getting your ideas into their mind, although it partially is. So my way of persuasion, my way of influence, my way of selling has 2 tracks. Track number 1 is, of course, implanting suggestions, but equally important is expanding the prospect's mind to include your ideas. The idea of sales being about expanding consciousness is a totally out there, groovy, tune in, turn on, drop out kind of thing. But in fact, because it is revolutionary, it holds tremendous amount of power.
So real quick question, the sales as an industry has accepted as fact that communication is roughly 55% physiological, 38% voice and tonality, and only 7% words. But you've enlarged
this is the largest bit of bull swaggy I've ever heard in my life. First of all, let's think about it skeptically. Let's clarify. How do you quantify units of communication? In what units of measurement? I can tell you This glass holds 8 ounces of water.
Okay.
We have a unit of measurement, ounces. So how do you quantify percentages of communication?
Excellent question.
No one asked that question. I would say this: if you don't know how to use your language in a persuasive way, that could be right. But when you know how to use your language in a way that implants suggestions into the mind of your listener, look, I can influence your audience even if I'm not present with them and I can't see their responses, so I can't possibly match their body language.
That's a good point.
I could say something like, I'll give you a demonstration. All right. Okay. Here's the wrong way to do it. As we're talking today, and I share with you how to stay in rapport with your clients, how to do closes, and how to handle objections, I think you'll find that throughout this interview, you enjoy it because it's going to increase your sales by about 15% in the next 90 days. Interesting, okay? But what if I said it like this? What if I was vague and I loaded it with hypnotic suggestions? And I said, as we're exploring this world of unconscious communication today, I don't know all the ways and at all the points you might stop and imagine all the benefits of applying this to your own business. But I think as we continue to learn together, that's the way a great decision can be made. I'm completely vague. Did I say anything at all that was specific?
It takes away their ability to fill in the blanks within their own mind.
No, it gives them the ability to fill in the blanks in their own mind when I'm vague.
You're vague, but by being specific, it takes that away.
Right. So if you're too specific in your language, yes, the body language will really be super important. But if you know how to be vague in your language, and that takes a little time, and you know how to implant suggestions, then your percentages are going to go way up. And may I take apart that phrase I gave you, just one little piece?
Yes, sir.
So at the end of it, I said a great decision's being made. I didn't say a great decision to hire me as your coach is being made, did I? I left it vague. So by leaving it vague, the unconscious mind says, oh, the decision will be to hire him as a coach. And that's only because I gave suggestions before that they would be able to stop and imagine all the benefits from my teaching. I didn't tell them what the benefits would be, did I?
No, you didn't.
So this flies in the face. This is quite contrarian. You always hear, make your message clear. And I would say most of the time, make your message clear, but there are times when you want to make the message vague.
Especially if they've already made that internal decision. So I've read this as well. And so we've debunked the percentages on how this is achieved, but it's still achieved this way. You told me once, it was a little blunt the way you said it, that people think the conscious mind is in charge, but it's but a pimple on the ass of the subconscious mind.
Did I say it that way? It sounds like I would. That sounds like the way I would put it. I'm cleaning it up for your audience.
You cleared it up. No, and it reminds me of another lesson. People buy for subconscious reasons,
right? And
they justify with a conscious mind.
Correct. That's absolutely right. And here's the thing. Here, I want to emphasize this again. People, oftentimes you have to confuse the prospect and break rapport. Now, this is another, what are you talking about? Confuse the prospect. What do you mean break rapport? Why would breaking rapport be powerful? You're supposed to always stay in rapport. Isn't that what we're taught? No, we're not supposed to stay in rapport. There are times when it helps to break rapport and interrupt people's patterns. This comes into play when we destroy objections, which is one of my favorite things to teach. I don't care what business you're in. I can teach you. Now I'm going to get specific. I don't care what business you're in. You hire me to train you or buy one of my courses. I can tell you that you will be destroying the most common objections at least 25 to 30% of the time. So you'll up your sales dramatically with just a few techniques. Let me give it away. Let me give away some goodies. I'm giving away the goodies for selfish reasons. Well, first, it's not selfish because I love giving value. But second thing, what I'm proposing is so crazy. I know that the only way someone could stop and think to yourself, wow, I at least have to talk to Paul some more, is if I give you some real good freebies that you can go out and use. So pattern interrupts. Let me give you an example of how to interrupt someone's pattern. This came from back in the days when I was a dating coach. One day I had a student call me up and say, hey, can you take me out into the field and watch me, pick up women? And I said, I don't do that. It's a pain in the butt. I just won't do it. He said, I'll give you 10 grand cash. I said, Thursday night, 8:30. What are you doing? He comes over to my condo in Marina Del Rey, townhome. He dumps $10,000 in cash in my lap. I quickly count it. And then I said, okay, let's go. I took him to a restaurant where there's a patio, outdoor lounge / patio, and people are mingling. It was what they call a meat market. Yeah. Not my term, but that was the term used to describe it back in those days. And this guy not only crashed and burned, you could smell the jet fuel. He was just doing horribly. He got his face slapped a couple of times, had a drink thrown in his, but he was unfazed. Nothing fazed him. Now, I will ask you, have you ever been in a situation where you watch someone get humiliated and it just, you began to feel bad for that person? You felt you were embarrassed for them?
Right. It's like they don't see it. They don't calibrate. They just keep trying harder. The same thing
Right.
that work.
Exactly. So I pulled him out of there after 90 minutes. And we were waiting for our cab. I saw a very attractive woman standing across the parking lot. I said, look, there's a lovely lady waiting for her cab. Now, this went in the wrong way. She got furious. Her face turned red. The veins on her pretty face bulged out. She began swearing at me, telling me to do things with parts of my anatomy that are impossible to do. Stick this into that.
They're out there.
Bringing up things that I should do to my mother that are only written about in Shakespeare's plays. It was pretty vile. My student got very angry. He went to charge at her. I put my arm out. Here's why I interrupted her pattern. And you're going to see the magic effect it had on her. I said, no, stop. She can do whatever she wants. We decide where she comes from. And here's the magic. I looked at her and she was still furious. And I said, look at her. She's someone's daughter. She's someone's sister. She's someone's best friend somewhere. She's deeply loved. Now, there was a moment of confusion on her face, and then she burst into tears, came running over to me, sobbing, just sobbing and saying, thank you. That's the most loving thing anyone has ever said to me. I feel so much love in my heart for you right now. I could feel the heat coming off her body, just to get a little bit graphic. And she said, this didn't have anything to do with you. Guys were saying the worst things to me all night. I got my butt pinched and just, I can't explain it. I feel this attraction for you. Can I have your number? And I looked at my student. He was shooting mad. So I said, sorry, I'm taken. And off we went to the night. Now, what's the point of that story? Point of that story is, first of all, I broke rapport with her. Well, I interrupted her pattern. What did she expect that I would do? There are three possible responses almost every guy would have done. Number one would be to yell at her back. Number two would be to apologize. Number three would be to just slink off into the night. I interrupted her pattern of expectation. And in that moment, she became very suggestible, didn't she? And I took her from a state of rage by breaking rapport with her. I broke rapport. Had I stayed in rapport with her, I would have matched her rage. And then we would have had a fight. I broke rapport with her, interrupted her pattern by giving her a response she wasn't expecting. And I led her to a much different state. I took her from rage to love and attraction in a matter of about a minute. Now, that's a dramatic example. That's the power of pattern interrupts. Imagine how this would work with something much easier, like a prospect who just doesn't get it yet. So does that story, first of all, does it have an impact for you?
So many things are going through my head. I will say this. Okay, if for those of you who are asking, what does relationship dating have to do with, selling to my customer? And I remember a statement, and I don't even remember who said this. It might have been you. The fastest way for two people to fall in love is for them to go through an emotional experience together and to match either values or some other level. And whether it's emotion or something else, first of all, when they call and there's no air conditioning, there's no heat, they're pissed off. By the time you get out there, sometimes you're running into a moment. And mirroring and matching, which all sounds great, if you don't know what you're projecting back, it might backfire on you. So I love where you're going with this. So what I see in a practical application of heating and air contractors is they go out there, we go out there, and the customer already has in mind, you are a commodity. Now, 9 out of 10 installations that are put in these days are put in wrong, first of all. So the contractor selection is vital to the end result. But the majority of these consumers have a preconceived notion. Just give me my price. I'm going with the lowest price. You are no different than anybody else. How do we interrupt that pattern and insert it with something that's useful? And not to put you on the spot, because I know you have to think through a lot of this, but that was just one that came up in my mind.
Well, is this something that they would actually state?
Maybe a technique or maybe a strategy that we
No. Is this something that the consumer would actually say to the comfort, what do you call them? Comfort technician?
Comfort advisor, comfort consultant.
Comfort advisor, yeah.
Or service technician sometimes, sure.
Would they say that to them? Would they say that to them?
I don't think they would say that, but they show it with their body language. So if a contractor's come out ahead of me, and I know this because as soon as I walk in, they say the equipment's right over there because they've already been through this process before.
Right.
Contractor goes straight to the equipment. In my mind, if everybody else took them to the equipment, I'm taking them to the kitchen table. I'm going to try to disrupt that pattern.
Right.
And so, but still, a lot of times we get to that end and we built this value intellectually in our own mind, and the process was linear and it made sense, but it didn't get past and motivate that subconscious somehow.
First and foremost, you need to get into their subconscious mind in the first 2 minutes of conversation. So I would say something like, well, before we explore the possible solutions to this problem you've got going here today, I just want to invite you to please share the questions that naturally arise when a great decision is going to be made. Now, that may sound like gobbledygook, but what is that doing? Before we explore the solutions to this problem you've got today, I want to invite you to please share the questions that naturally arise when a great decision is going to be made.
Well,
after all, isn't that the only way we can ensure we've got a great line of communication going here? Did you hear the suggestions?
I did. And I also heard we share together versus I, me, this, that.
Yes.
The things that
we share together, or what I call implied relationship words. Right. They imply a relationship. Instead of me saying, well, as I'm doing this service call today, I want you to please ask any questions that come up so you can be sure that I'm the person you should choose, crap like that. It's terrible. And here's a little subtle thing. What's the difference in saying ask questions and share questions? When you ask questions, it's you doing something to me. When you share questions, it's you doing something with me.
Gotcha.
Do you get it?
Yes, sir. Excellent.
And now let me give you a specific. I have not really taken a deep dive into HVAC, but I've worked with a lot of real estate brokers, and they get this one a lot. I don't want to pay that high a commission. I get that one a lot. And I've taught them how to deal with that. Price objection. I teach my brokers to say, well, Mr. Smith, with the right agent, you're not paying a commission. you're investing in skills. Maybe you'll get lucky with a bargain basement option, but do you really want to gamble when it comes to the most important investment of your life, your home? Do you see the contrast there?
It's the power of selecting the right words. Like when we, after some of the training I went through years ago with you, we went back and taught our guys, you never say the word contract. We always say the word agreement. We never say the word sold. We chose the best option. We never say sign. We say, I'm going to get your okay right here, or let's schedule this in, what have you. So, but you've taken it a step farther, which I love, and you're avoiding certain words that take that subconscious mind out of, I don't know, its level of openness to the fact that we're working together. We are in rapport, and I love that. So we can finish on that if you want, but I also want to make sure that we cover mindset. I mean, how much of this is the mindset of the employee, the company representative, or the business owner before they even enter into this situation?
I think mindset is everything. Mindset is everything. And to me, before you get to the positive, you have to eliminate or at least modulate the negative. And let me explain what I mean by that by asking you a question. So in the following areas of human endeavor, losing weight, finding love, and getting rich, how many millions of copies of books, not titles, but actual copies of books have been sold in the last, say, 5 years? Ballpark it.
I would not even guess at that. It's going to be huge.
What, let's say 50 million?
Okay.
That's a good conservative number. Over the last 5 years, I would say that's a good number. Then why don't we see 50 million skinny rich millionaires running around with their ideal love partner? Something is wrong. In between the inspiration / information and the implementation, there's a huge gap.
Right.
There's a giant gap. And so I want to give you a metaphor that I think will describe what's in that gap, if I may tell you a little story. So being of the Jewish faith, we celebrated Hanukkah when I was a kid. And way back in 1966, I'm not a spring chicken anymore. I was 8 years old, and I had this habit of breaking my little brother's toys. And my sister, Anita, loved my sister. She bought my little brother, Stevie, a toy robot. Back then in 1966, robots could do three things. You could make them go forward, you can make them go backwards, or you can make the lights in their eyes blink. Now, being what they call in the psychotherapeutic world a schmuck, a little schmuck, I took the toy from my brother. I pressed forwards and backwards at the same time. The robot started to shake. The little blue wires in its robot ass caught fire. The smoke came out, it fell over, and it stopped. The robot developed an internal conflict because there was a part that said go forward, a part that said go backwards, and the wiring burned. So I think often, if you've ever felt when you go to the next level or you're attempting to start something and it just doesn't go, you don't deliver the best performance, I think it's often because we have this internal conflict. There's a part of us, a set of programming that's holding us back. And until we know what that is and we switch it off and we have the ability to learn from our mistakes, then all this positive, don't get me wrong, I do believe in the power of writing goals. I have a whole giant book of them that I review. I believe in positive visualization. I believe in all of that. But until you get rid of the negative stuff, the positive stuff is going to be, you're going to be tugged in two directions like that robot. So let me unpack that further. Because one of the unique things about my sales system, and there are so many good ones out there, I honestly believe I'm the only person who teaches how to learn from your mistakes. How to learn from your mistakes without programming the back end. Have you ever heard the phrase, oh, just learn from every experience?
Sure.
Does anyone give you a specific process for doing so?
Nope.
No. So that to me just always enraged me. I think having come to one of my seminars, you heard me, excuse me, my volume went down. You heard me say that's like being in a desert. Your car's broken down. Your cell phone battery is about to die. You take one last shot calling a local mechanic. You describe the problem. He says, oh, you just need to use a Fradget wrench to reach into the who's-it and connect it to the Wazzlestat. And then the phone dies. Oh, well, thank you. If I knew how to do that, I wouldn't be calling you.
Good example.
So we need to have the ability to learn from our experiences. And one of the ways I teach people to do that is, first and foremost, stop asking why questions. Why can't I close the big ticket customer? Why can't I break through my $50,000 a month sales ceiling? Why questions are a form of self-torture and self-sabotage, thinly disguised as a search for wisdom and a search for answers. The trouble is, when you ask yourself, why can't I get the big ticket sales to close? Are you looking at your resources, or are you looking at your deficits? You're not looking at your resources. And the other thing is, are you looking at your successes, or are you looking at your errors and your mistakes? Which you're looking at.
Good point.
Yeah, you continue to look at your mistakes. Now, here's a rule of the human mind. The human mind can't tell the difference between what you're dwelling on, what you're rehearsing, and what you're programming it in to do. So if you have 1,000 repetitions of thinking, why can't I do this? And you're on some unconscious level imagining all the times you didn't do it, then your mind is simply going to go, or the brain is going to go, oh, he or she is programming me to do that behavior. So when I get out in the real world, I'll just keep repeating the behavior. Does that make a mistake? Does that make sense? So we have mistakes. We have dwelling on the mistakes. We have that programming it right back into the brain. Then we have ineffective behavior, which feeds into the dwelling on it over and over and over again. So one of the things I teach in my trainings is to break that cycle. Listen to me, if you own a business, and people listening to this are in the HVAC business, one of the most important things you can do is to teach your technicians and to teach yourself and your salespeople how to learn from what they're doing so that they can up their performance. Not just yeah, I'm sorry, go ahead.
Just want to inject this. So I see two basic types when I'm working with salespeople. One of them is always looking, what did I do wrong? What can I do better? How do I improve? The other one is always blaming the customer. That was a bad lead. These guys, they're just interested in price. They don't understand value. So we've got different personality types. We've got, as a business owner, I'm wanting to, look at this. Is this one guy salvageable, or do I need to replace him? Or is there something I can do to fix that? And then, there's just different personality types. Even on these sales, we hear that, and I'd love to hear your feedback on this, Paul. I know you got an awesome reply. These 4 major personality types, so you got to sell a little different each one. What do you say to these different scenarios?
That's true, but it's also cumbersome and it's incomplete. Look, give me the 4 types of people who you're selling to. The analytics, I believe, the people who need to analyze, the people. Give me the 4 types. What are they?
Passive aggressive, the dominant, the influencer, Mr. Bubbly, and just the facts, ma'am.
Okay. All of those people dream at night. All of them dream at night. All of them, when they were little children, like to have bedtime stories read to them. Inside of all these people is a very suggestible 5-year-old child. So yes, do your personality analysis, but on top of that, layer in subconscious languaging so you can appeal to that childlike side of their personality. Inside every person, no matter how adult and grown up they may appear to be walking through the world, is a 5-year-old child who wants to be convinced. Now, that may sound disrespectful. I didn't create that reality. It's just the way it is. That's the way it is. Now, as far as dealing with your salespeople. One thing I'll say about this, the difference between a champion salesperson and a mediocre one of the differences, the champion is interested in the sale, but she's invested in her skills.
Ooh.
In a breakfast of bacon and eggs, the pig is invested, the chicken is interested. So champions, yes, they want that sale. They're dedicated and they're prepared for it. But they're invested in the skills. People are not so good, have it asked backwards. They're invested in the sale, but only interested in the skills. And I'll give you another one. This has to do with triple Ds. We all love triple Ds. But I don't mean to get your mind out of the gutter. I'm talking about there's 3 negative triple Ds. That's being demanding, being despairing, and dabbling. So when you're demanding, it's like, damn it, this customer owes me the sale. He better give me the sale. When you're despairing, it's like, I'll never be good at this. When you're dabbling, that means you're not committed. Dabbling, when you dabble, you suffer. When you dabble, your results go down. Now the positive triple Ds are devoted, dedicated, and disciplined. You're devoted to getting better at your craft. You're dedicated to doing it, which means you're going to set aside the time to make sure that it gets done. And then you're disciplined, which means you do, according to your structure, what you're supposed to do in a way that serves your learning. Does that make sense?
Yes, sir.
And I really want to talk about the power. If you're struggling in your sales, there's a technical side of it that you need to get better at. But also probably you're engaging in a lot of demanding and a lot of despairing. You're demanding that the customer give you results, or you're despairing that you'll ever be able to be good at what you do, or even more complicated, you're going back and forth between the two. Does this make sense?
Makes awesome sense.
You know, I want to give you one more if I can. I'm stepping on you, but because we have limited time.
No worries.
Here's a great technique to deal with rejection. Anytime you lose a sale, you bless that person. You say, bless you. Thank you for showing up as my teacher and an opportunity to improve my skills. May you prosper and grow. I release you now with love. You bless that person. You wish prosperity and happiness on them, and you release them with love. This may sound new age, it may sound mystical, airy-fairy, but when you bless the person who has frustrated you, you open up the doorway to grace. I'm not talking religiously. You open up the doorway to opportunity. I have an affirmation, and I do affirmations, but only because I also work on eliminating the negative. One of my affirmations is, my opportunities are everywhere. They surround me and I create them. So if my opportunities are everywhere and they surround me, I create them. And if someone doesn't give me what I want, I can bless them and wish them well. I'll even imagine them with another person solving the problem. And I wish for their happiness, and then I release them with love. This will take away any and all fear of rejection and bring a joy into your sale that when you show up, people will sense it non-verbally. They'll sense it subconsciously.
I love that. And, you know, I was thinking about the connection of the physiology that follows being in that good state. And I read somewhere where when you're in that state and you've eliminated the negativity, your body posture actually improves. And that if you want to, is this true that if you want to return to that state, change your physiology to how you would be? Yeah. So
they both work. They work either way. When you change your beliefs and attitudes, your posture will change. When you change your posture, your beliefs and attitudes will change. They're a feedback loop. In NLP, to get jargony, to impress people, it's called a feed forward loop.
Okay.
But yeah, they're both true.
Right. So what about ambiguities? Does that go too deep for this conversation, or?
That's a more technical
Okay.
discussion for an advanced program.
Well, I got you on here, Paul, because I know you got so
Well, I know when I used to do the seminars, we would have tables on the back with all sorts of recorded programs. And I would say, as you go by the table.
That's why I bought that.
Yeah, you bought it because I said, as you go by the table, did I say BY? Did I say BY or BUY?
Okay. Go by or go by.
Right.
Good.
Or by and by, or by the way, as you go by the table.
Oh, we got to get you dialed in on something. We got to get you back. We're going to have to do something special. So
I just thought of something special. I've never done this before on any podcast.
This is awesome.
You know what? Instead of going out on links to my website, I swear to you, I just came up with this. I really did.
Which I'm going to post here in a minute. Guys, he's trying to make obvious what he does very subtly, and he'll teach you to do just as well so that you'll understand it. But if you didn't catch some of these subtleties, if it just sounded kind of, I don't understand that, you need to go back and listen to this a second time. The details in there are gold. Great job. Man, I really appreciate you coming on and taking us down this path. It just brings back all the memories of some of the stuff that,
Yeah, we're both a little grayer. We both have a little less hair.
Yeah, a lot less.
Just a little less.
And a few more pounds in my case.
You know what I want to do? I swear to you on my cat's lives, I've never done this before in any podcast. You know why I'm doing this? Because I see that great big blue HVAC from A to Z, HVAC.
Oh yeah.
I'm going to give out my email address. This is my real, I'm not going to give out any links. That's what I usually do. I'm going to give out my email address.
Okay.
Email me at this address, and in the subject line, put HVAC, and in the body of the email, put HVAC. I'll send you a link and a 50% coupon for my main course, my Subtle Words That Sell online training.
I love it.
It's got 12 modules. The first 4 are on mindset. The next 4 are on sales presentations. It's actually 16 modules. And the next 4 are on destroying objections. And I'll give you a 50% discount on that. Just so here's my email address, paul@speakerpaulross.com. And just in the subject line, put HVAC. And in the body copy, just put HVAC. I'll give you a link with a discount code, and you'll get 50% off my course.
I'm going to come back and put this on an overlay so that you guys didn't have to write that down, but it is paul@speakerpaulross.com, and you're going to have that displayed. In fact, I'll put it in the link beneath the video. And we're going to go ahead and flash up your website as well at the appropriate point. So we'll get that taken care of, because I know a lot of you guys, you need the help, and this is a fresh avenue. You've heard it all before. You read all the books. You've tried everything, and nothing's working. Now you're getting something new. You're getting something fresh. You're getting something that actually gets results. And not.
Can I ask you a question?
Yes, sir.
You've employed my techniques in your own sales, correct?
Yes, I was.
How much money, extra money, has it put in your pocket?
If I had to quantify it in money, I know it's gone up, but what I felt was it was just a better connection with my customers in general. They stayed more loyal. They kept coming back. They didn't go elsewhere.
You're right.
My sales did go up, but it was just a better, I don't know. They seemed to see something in me that they liked.
That's because you suggested it.
I probably did. Or it was a consequence of the other suggestions that I think we try to embody. We can listen, guys. You can be the best HVAC technician to ever grace the presence of that furnace, condensing unit, or heat pump. But if that homeowner doesn't feel his or her warm and fuzzy, you are not coming back. You're going to have to raise the bar if you want to raise your income. So, Paul, awesome job. Thank you so much for coming. I'm so honored.
Well, thank you for giving me the opportunity.
No,
I love teaching. Becoming your teacher is something that I can't wait for you to allow yourself to naturally have that happen as you reach out to me. And thank you also for giving me the chance to kick my cat out of the room so she didn't disrupt the broadcast entirely, which she would have done.
We edited that right out. No worries. Okay. So over 30 years of experience, guys, a strategy that actually gets the results that you want. Thank you, Mr. Paul Ross. We really appreciate you coming on here. And for you guys, you're getting 50% off. Just drop in the subject HVAC or HVAC greatness. Go ahead and throw the whole thing in.
No, make it easy. Just HVAC. That's easy for people to remember. And the body of the email, right? HVAC. And we'll send you a link, and that'll be and a discount code for 50% off.
What that means is he's not confusing any other HVAC trainers other than your buddy Pete Ramsey here at HVAC.
That's right. That's right, Pete.
Awesome. Well, thank you again for being on here. Guys, get on there. Make sure that you get on the .com, get your training, and get your team in place. And if you have a team of comfort advisors, comfort consultants, or selling technicians, get a hold of Paul directly and see what he can do for your team privately. I know he'd be glad to do that.
Hey, it's Pete. A quick thank you for joining me today on HVAC Greatness, or maybe just letting me keep you company as you're out running about. Either way, I sincerely hope that you picked up on something today that might help you and your business progress on your journey to HVAC greatness. Want more? Make sure we stay on the air. Share the podcast with a friend, rate and review it, and be sure to subscribe to our email list at hvacgreatness.com so that you don't miss anything. This is Pete Ramsey signing out and reminding you why your customers love your business and what makes your company great. In one word, you. So let's keep refining your already good image and make it truly great.